If you were with us throughout the night into the early hours of this morning, you would have seen that lengthy nomination process that was taking place. Of course, Pule Mabe saying that the voting for the ANC top 7 will indeed happen sometime this afternoon. So just before the voting commences, explaining that the elections committee will then come in and outline the voting process at plenary. The party will use a manual counting of ballots system. And of course, at this end, it's not yet clear if the voting counting will then happen tonight and then the announcement will happen tonight. But my colleague Natasha Piri was in that briefing listening in on Pule Mabe. Let's cross now to her. Natasha, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Of course, Pule Mabe just outlaying some of the plans that are going to take place today. So speak to us about some of the other key points that you raised during this briefing.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, and of course to our SABC viewers. I think the key issue here will be the voting of delegates, and we've just been informed as the SABC that voting is about to start and that the following delegates from these provinces are moving to their voting stations. The first province will be Free State, the second will be the Western Cape, the third will be the Northern Cape, the PEC, then the NEC. So we've just been reliably informed as SABC News in regards to that issue. But I'm also joined by a very interesting figure, somebody who's no stranger to us members of the media and to the public, Mr. Lebohang Maile, who is a PEC member here in Gauteng. Mr. Maile, thank you so much for your time and thanks for joining us on SABC News. I mean, yesterday, just after the nominations took place, I saw, your Instagram post, and seemingly it seems as if the PEC has changed their support from President Cyril Ramaphosa to Dr. Zweli Mkhize. And just reading through your proposed top 7, we see there that your preferred candidate is Zweli Mkhize, Deputy President is Paul Mashatile, National Chairperson is Dan Mathabata, SG, the Secretary General is Phumulo Maswale, First Deputy DSG is Nomvula Mokonyane, second is Ronaldo, and TG is Pule Mabe.
Afternoon, thanks for having us. The Provincial Executive Committee would have pronounced itself in public. It's a pronouncement, not a nomination, before the nominations of branches. And when you look at the nominations of branches closely in Gauteng, you will see that 47% of them nominated the president. 53% nominated other candidates, Didi Mabuza, Nkosazana, Dlamini Zuma, Zweli Mkhize, Lindiwe Sisulu. So what it means is that 53% of Gauteng branches did not agree with the president, and they affirmed those who don't prefer him coming back. So that's the first important. But the second important thing for us was that we said as a PEC, and we were clear that our two preferred candidates is that it's Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Nomvula Mokonyane, Deputy Secretary General. Therefore, as a province, we will support people who support us, because we can't have preferred candidates and those preferred candidates are not affirmed and supported by those provinces that support the president, and they expect us to support the president, but they don't want to support us. They expect us to support other candidates, but they support us. Look at the Eastern Cape, they support their chair, and they've made it clear. We have met with them, we have reached out to them. Look at Limpopo, they support our candidate, support their chairperson. And that's how we ended up where we are, because conference must vote. There has to be a position. We can't talk forever. We need to make a determination. We have made a determination that we will support, and I'm saying those of us who are guided by what the PEC has said, that our preferred candidates are these two, and we will support whoever that supports them.
Are you that these candidates that you've endorsed, that you've nominated, will actually come out being the winners?
We are confident, because, as I've said, look at the KZN. They've got about 900 delegates, and we think, well, not we think, we we are sure that we'll get nothing less than 700 there. You go to Eastern Cape, they've got 600 plus. We will get nothing less than 200 there. And we've worked out the numbers province by province. But ultimately, individuals get into the ballot box and ballot booth, and they vote whichever way. But we have confidence in the reliability of the candidates from all the different provinces who have said they're supporting us. We are continuing to lobby, even those who are not in agreement with us. But because we are all comrades, I mean, and when you look at the trend, you're most likely to have kind of leadership, which will be good for the ANC, because we are all comrades. We are not obsessed with this or that leader. We don't hate anyone. We just have a different preference based on the challenges that we're facing as a country. We have decided that this or that leader should come in, that leader should go out, and we're still going to look at the National Executive Committee, which is a very important structure because it's the highest decision-making body in between conferences. So if you want to deal decisively with the problems that we're facing, the cost of living is too high, there's load shedding, unemployment is rising, poverty is rising, inequality is rising, the economy is not growing. So you need a decisive, multi-skilled, knowledgeable committee which should be able to comprehend these challenges and be able to act and not just talk about it, because people are tired of always being told about plans, policies and all that. There are things that we can change now. We should be able to change those things. But you can't change those things if there's no political will, if you don't have a team that understands the urgency of the matters that are facing us. So this National Executive Committee, in its entirety, you're going to see a lot of new faces, a lot of energetic young people. And when you look at both sides, you realize that there is a willingness, and everyone wants to bring more and more energetic team that can help us take the organization forward.
And we'll come to that issue of the NEC. But yesterday, to the dismay of some delegates from Gauteng, we saw what happened there when Nomvula Mokonyane, had accepted a nomination. You had Gauteng delegates saying that could they just please close it, because for them, they had said that she had been, elected uncontested, and then the floor was then opened up again. Do you think the Electoral Committee was actually fair? And I mean, there have been questions before this conference questioning the credibility of the Electoral Committee.
Well, I don't want to cast aspersions on the integrity of because you'll understand that the Electoral Committee, there's a wing, what I'll call a political wing, which is chaired by Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. There's a person who has been questioned there. He's
that was Chief Matsela?
Yes, his association with the president and all that. So it's just an individual, not the entire committee. And you've got the technical and administrative wing, which is the election agency that do the counting. So the lady who was presiding, she's not well accustomed with ANC processes, and I think she was overwhelmed, and I think it's a genuine mistake, and I think it's premature and early to try and cast aspersions on the integrity of the process. What is clear is that this conference is highly contested, and because it's highly contested, a mistake like that can be misunderstood and be seen or be misinterpreted. I want to believe that it's just a genuine mistake because she was overwhelmed, I think.
But, just judging by the reaction of the provincial secretary, the likes of Bones Modise, the spokesperson of the ANC, Gauteng delegates were not happy with the conduct of, the chairperson. But anyway, you talk about a highly contested conference. I think journalists were so shocked last night after the nomination process, just walking out, seeing the various caucuses of ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa and that of Zweli Mkhize. It's a tight race.
Yeah, it shouldn't be shocking because even when you've got elections, the general elections or local government elections, the campaigning becomes intense. There comes a time when a few weeks before, body pushes harder, and that's what is happening now that the ballot has been finalized and it's known. You want to count your numbers, you want to understand what do you have, what are your chances, you want to check if you can't persuade other comrades and all that. You've got comrades who will say, look, we agree with you maybe on this position, not on that position, and you want to convince them why they must agree with you on everything and all that. So until the last moment, lobbying will continue.
Just the last question from me before we bring in our other guest. Looking at the leadership that you've had over the past 5 years, how would you rate that? How would you rate them, including the NEC? I mean, we spoke to quite a number of ANC, officials, quite a number of ANC, NEC members, and they've been quite critical of the NEC. A case in point would be Tony Yengeni, and he was also critical of himself, saying that, listen, this NEC, the outgoing NEC, should not even come back as NEC members when they're going to be elected.
Yeah, no, he's correct. I mean, this has been a disaster of monumental proportions. In my view, all of them should not come back, but unfortunately, some of them, are contesting and they're showing. We know their history as individuals, we know what they are capable of, but as a collective, because the NEC is a collective, and when you judge it, you don't judge people as individuals, you judge the structure. So the structure has failed dismally. Look at the situation in the country, as I was explaining, load shedding, unemployment, the economy. Yes, there was COVID-19, but I think there are certain things we could have done differently had we acted decisively in unity based on principle. I mean, how do you have an NEC that has been discussing step aside for the last 5 years, literally? Yet we've got problems. And that's why I'm saying there's been a monumental disaster from where I'm sitting. And I hope we get far much better NEC than this one. It is for that reason that most of them will never come back, despite the fact that they may not have been nominated. Others, we really think that they are tired. We are not ageist. We understand that generational mix means having people with institutional memory, the credentials, the knowledge, and bring new energy, vibrancy, and go forward. So we're not saying we just want young people. ANC is an organization that has got a rich history and traditions, and you need people who have knowledge, who have been there to help us and pass the baton. But we can't have a lot of them in that NEC, because that will create, will perpetuate the problems. We can't continue talking about these problems and challenges and not do anything about them. Otherwise, what's the point of ANC existing? Because the ANC exists to solve people's problems. If the ANC is not capable of solving people's problems, then it must cease to exist.
Mr. Maile, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for that conversation. Unathi, that was Mr. Lebogang Maile, PC member here in Gauteng. Of course, also telling us that, listen, the Gauteng PEC is now supporting Dr. Zweli Mkhize as their preferred candidate for ANC president. I'm going to try to call in my next guest, Ms. Marupin Ramokgopa, into the frame, Unathi, and of course, we will have a conversation with her. Of course, yesterday, interesting developments had unfolded unfolded there on the nomination floor. She was nominated from the floor. She accepted the nomination for the position of second DSG, and she will be going head-to-head with another candidate, Romelda, from the Western Cape. If you don't know who Mayor Ramokgopa is, she's also, correct me if I'm wrong or not, an advisor to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yes, I am.
And she's also the ANC Women's League National Task Team Coordinator, of course, the body that is tasked to taking the ANC Women's League to conference. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I think for some members of the media, you weren't surprised at all, but I mean, just lightly, take us through your feelings when you got that nomination from the floor. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling confident, but most of all, I'm feeling honored that the members of this organization would honor the ANC Women's League's effort to actually have, first of all, the second DSG added to the top structure of the ANC, but most of all, to also see the support we had of nominating 4 women, in fact, are on the ballot. I think, I'm not sure, but I stand corrected. I don't remember this happening in a very, very long time. So we're really honored. But I'm also honored, of course, as a candidate as well, that there are branches of the ANC that believe that I can be able to contribute to the broader leadership of the ANC.
Ms. Ramokgopa, when we close this conference, hopefully on the 20th of December, will you be the second DSG of the ANC?
I am not a prophet, but by looking at the amount of support that we had when we were doing our lobbying, I do believe that I definitely will make it.
Let's talk about the role of the ANC Women's League, specifically the task team. I mean, earlier on during the policy conference, I had an opportunity to speak to you and several other women, you know, and just coming up on the road leading to the 55th National Conference, we've engaged a number of women in the organization. There was a time and point where the ANC Women's League had said that the ANC is ready for a female president. But yet you have the ANC Women's League National Task Team that is endorsing ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa to be the president. Why not a woman? Why not rally your support as women behind a female?
It is not that we did not rally ourselves behind a female, but we rallied ourselves to having 50% gender parity in the top officials of the ANC. That's what we concentrated on. That's what we fought for. That's what we have been pushing. And this is for the reason that in this particular conference, we at least have 4 women that are being able to contest on the ballot. And I think that is something that we need to celebrate, because that's what we concentrated on. We do believe that it is quite important to actually make sure that the control of the entire top 7 or the top officials is something that we can contribute on, instead of just looking at one position, because the center of power does not rely only on one position, but it lies within a structure or in a structure. So processes are being started at the top officials, which is going to be 7 now, and then they will go to the NWC, then NEC, which is the highest decision-making body of the ANC. So it becomes important that we fight for a place where we can be able to make a difference and play a meaningful role. That is why we opted not to look at one position, but look at least more than 3 positions that we can be able to fight for as women and say that that's what we want to achieve.
And I get you on that point, but I mean, the narrative that's also out there in the public is that women of the ANC always deputize, you know, positions. Why not say, I as Maruping will vie for the SG, the engine of the organization? Yes, I'm not saying that, you know, positions of DSG are not important, but why not those positions? Why couldn't you just say, I can be president?
We do have a position of the Treasurer General. It is a full office. And the reason we chose that particular one as women and the caucus that we ran is precisely because we do believe that one of the reasons that we did not see a lot of programs that spoke to gender emancipation or female emancipation or the gender struggle as a whole was precisely because there was no funding that was adequate for us to be able to run our programs. So we thought to ourselves we needed to concentrate on the issue of getting the Treasurer General to be a woman, so that all our programs that we put in place can can be funded without us having to struggle. We will remind the Treasurer General that we hope will be a woman to say that we fought for you for this specific reason, that you should be able to fund our programs. Because it won't help just to have one person sitting there in a position. It is a good thing, but we need to have programs that will speak to branches, regions and provinces, so that even if we are going to be having programs that are going to speak to other elections in the lower structures, we should know that there will be someone who will be able to support us. And whatever we can say, revolution needs resources. So that's what's important for us right now. I know people wanted us to look at other things, but we thought to ourselves we needed to focus on what we need to achieve. And those are the things that we fought for, and we have done well where I'm standing.
What do you say to those that say that the task team is not doing enough to advance the plight of women?
I would say that give us a chance, or be honest with yourself, and then be able to say what is it that you expected from us that we didn't do, and look at the period at which we were appointed until now. What is it that we have been able to do? In my view, there is a lot that we've been able to do. There's a lot that we've been able to achieve, and things that maybe haven't even happened when other people had about 5 years, 7 years in office. We had about only 5 to 6 months, and I think that we have really done not necessarily enough, but much to be celebrated.
There are talks of, friction between the ANC, of members in the ANC Women's League, and the question arises, no, there are those that you know very well, Asmurping. There are those who support a certain leader, there are those who support a certain leader. There's seemingly those who don't see eye to eye in the structures of the ANC Women's League. And I mean, I think for me, with such things, will you fulfill your mandate as the ANC Women's League, as a task team, to actually advance the struggle of women, in our country, instead of always, fighting amongst each other? It's also the same argument as the ANC, that the ANC is always so, preoccupied with its own struggles, with its own battles of factionalism, and you forget the ordinary person at home who suffers from service delivery. I mean, the president also said in his political report that ANC members are to blame for the weakened state because of issues of corruption. The ANC is not inward looking as women, and there's this term of PhD, puller down syndrome. You're so preoccupied with fighting. Natasha must fight with Marupeng, whereas you forget that there's the plight of women out there, who are facing, second epidemics like GBV.
Yes. I would not say that there are factions. There are groups that are maybe derived from the fact that people have got preferences. And if you look at any place where there will be any contest of positions, there will be preferences. That doesn't mean that that is a fight. Yes, people will not always agree, because you must remember all of us as individuals come to a structure with different expectations and different interests. But at the end of the day, what matters is that we will always subdue our interests under the interest of the organization that we are serving. Having differences, yes, there will always be, because of those particular interests. Even at home, there will be different interests and there will be different views. But at the end of the day, if we have to do something for the benefit of our masses and the people that are our constituency, we always come together to make sure that we do that. Because I don't believe that there's any program that we ever had and people boycotted just because they are not agreeing with someone. We will differ in terms of preferences of who should lead. We may also take time, maybe in terms of projects that we need to do, but at the end of the day, when we have to do something together and we have agreed upon, we always do it together as a collective. So that's my view as it relates to what we are as a structure.
Ms. Ramakgopa, thank you so much. Of course, we will catch up with you. All the best inside. And of course, Unaiti, that was my guest, Ms. Marupeng Ramakgopa, who is the coordinator of the ANC Women's League National Task Team. Of course, we will be giving you various updates and interviews with various ANC members and also those who have been nominated, also from the floor, Unaiti. So with that said, it's back to you in studio.